You know, Nick talks about the transfer of power, and it's really interesting. There's been a transfer of power, but there hasn't been a transfer of money. And that's really one of the big questions I have. I want to get back to this later. But in a way, the technology revolution that we're undergoing now reminds me of when MIDI first came in. And the analogy and the metaphor is perfectly the same, which is both things have democratized the record-making process. MIDI did it, and you know, all of a sudden, you know, you could make beats, you could do stuff, and you didn't have to be a traditional musician. And a lot of people railed against it, and they're now selling insurance.
The same way they railed against synthesizers even before that.
Same deal, same deal. But the thing about the internet is that the internet and technology have leveled the playing field even more. And he talks about the power. What the power really is in this case is the music. Because the money's a separate thing, and we do have to deal with those issues. But the power in this context is making the music. Distributing it, getting it to a lot of people, and making money for it, that's an interesting, you know, place we have to try to get to and think about. But the power is really the music itself.
Hank,
no, I just very great what you said. But I just think that, you know, the one major problem that I see in everything that you were saying is the fact that, you know, even though that the record companies, you know, are that structure, they still are that structure. So now what's happening is that we, the children, if you would, now we're kind of like we have a free run at the store. But the problem is that we're still children. We don't know what that means. And so we don't even understand how we can take advantage of it. And so when Nick talks about the transfer of power, yes, the power has been transferred. It's transferred now back to us, back to you. All right? But what does that mean? That's like, you know, years ago we were freed, and we were like, okay, we're freed now from being slaves, but what does that actually mean? So most people right now are going to go back to the plantation because they don't know what it means to be free. So what I'm going to suggest to you is that the record companies, you know, me being inside the record companies, I've understood one thing. The record companies owned nothing. They didn't own the desks. They didn't own the store. They rent out their facilities. Everything is, they don't own the trucks. They don't own the retail stores. They don't own radio. They don't own the publications. They don't own anything that it takes to do that. What do they have? They have something that's something that's more powerful than currency. What is more powerful than currency? Cooperation. All right? They have a cooperation with everybody that has those particular facilities. And what they do is they barter between that. So thus, and what keeps cooperation going? Trust. All right? The one thing that we don't have, and the reason why I said that we're free, is that we don't have a trust system in place for all of us. For example, that I know that this young lady is going to sell 5 of my records, and she's going to give me back, you know, 20% or 50% or whatever the case may be. We don't have that trust. All right? And so now that we have the transfer of power, if we don't develop the cooperation and the trust within each other, then once again, we're going to go back to the plantation, because all they're going to do is devise a better way of creating that trust so that we can go back to them.
How did they enforce the trust you're describing, Hank?
Well,
how did they create it, first of all, and how did they maintain it?
I mean, it's simple. You're dealing with when you're dealing with business people. You know, for example, if I own trucks, you know, I have an arrangement with the record companies that I'm going to move product from from the distribution house to the stores, and they're going to pay me X amount of dollars to do that. Well, there's a trust built in that they're going to do that. The same it is with retail stores. You know, they sell the records basically on consignment. You know, so what happens is they give you the records. You have 90 days in order to pay them, or you can take that money and buy new records between them. But there's a trust there that happens.
I think it's a system. It's analogous to a system. We have no system. The internet's out there, and this is just what he said about being free. The internet is out there, but so, okay, you put your music on the internet. Big deal. The labels have a system for getting it in front of people's faces. That's huge. And that, again, is the trust. That's the whole system with all the pieces working together. And that is huge.
And so what we can do with the internet, let's say, for example, if each one of us had our own site, you know, what I see people doing with the internet is to me, is the opposite. What everybody's doing is that they're only promoting their product. Well, that's cool and all, but if everybody only promotes their product, well then, if you only got 5 people that's coming to your site, and we all got 5 people up here, and we're only going to have, what, 30 or 25 people, you know, seeing our product. Well, if we all promoted each other's at the same time, we're going to multiply those efforts. All right. So it's kind of like it's kind of like very similar to if you go down on 6th Street, you know, there's like all these Indian restaurants, you know, really cool Indian restaurants, and you sit there and say, well, damn, why are they all on the same block? Aren't they in competition with each other? Yes, they are. But what ends up happening in the result is that everybody knows that they're there, so more people go there. See, so the competition is not necessarily between artists, between producers, or between engineers. It's between us, the music makers, and the public. So if we all promoted each other's stuff on our sites, what is the visibility that we're going to now have? What is it going to look like?
It's going to near 100%.
Okay.
In concept, at least.
All right.
Yeah.
So just let me just back that one point up, just so that you understand how clear it is that there's a show that comes on Fox, which garnishes something like a 50 share when it does its finale. It's called American Idol. All right? What is American Idol? It's nothing but, to me, it's an open mic show on television. But the difference is it's taking unknown acts. You've never heard of these guys ever before, putting them in front of 50 million people. Now you've heard of them. Now they created currency. See, currency is now in viewership now. All right? Your currency is not in selling of records. Those days are over. It's now in the exposure of records. This is what they're saying. This is why the record companies are having a big problem, because they still believe in this medium, this little plastic medium, when it's not about that at all. It's a bigger picture now. We're now we're now moved over from radio. We moved to television. So now that same thing just happened in the music business. We've moved from just audio to audio/visual. I'm sorry, I didn't want to.
Not at all. No, it's a very key point. And keeping that in mind, I want to ask you about how this change is affecting the way that you are working as professionals. And I think this is something to which members of our audience will definitely connect. And I don't know how many of you saw this in the newspaper or in the news. I saw it in AM New York, but it was a story about the closing of Sony's West 54th Street studios. And I want to read a paragraph from that story when I saw it, and it says this. It says, the high-tech and highly sought studios, which will shut their doors in August, are just another casualty to an industry trend of artists going with smaller, less expensive studios, or even producing albums from home, said George Peterson, executive editor of Mix. I'm sure a lot of you read Mix magazine, the recording industry trade magazine. Though easier on the wallet, smaller studios don't compare with a high-definition, state-of-the-art venue like the West 54th Street studios. For the music industry, it's a very sad day, Peterson said. Now, I mean, it's accurate, obviously, that the studios are closing, and they're doing so because it's more profitable for them to sell the real estate than to actually operate studios out of that space. It's more valuable as property than anything they can put on it, you know, handling music. But George Patterson is saying that these state-of-the-art venues don't compare with a home studio, and that this is a very sad day for the music business. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are about that.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore. That's the whole thing. You know, I'm one of the last guys who gets paid big money to go up and twist a lot of expensive knobs, and I got lots of cool gear at home, but that stuff doesn't matter anymore because we can all do it ourselves. Now, people say, well, it's different. Oh, man, it sounds better. Well, it sounds better, but I don't know if it sounds $1 million better.